And an absolutely great track from the fantastic Californians. And I've just had a bit of inside information off Mick Brooks, my old mate Mick, Wolverhampton legend, and Pete as well. We've got Pete Aberley. So I understand you did get everything that you should have done with that then, Mick?
Oh, I did the words for it. Terry wrote the music.
Yeah.
And the night before, I had to sit up all night trying to write the words.
Oh, right.
I never got the credits.
Oh, you never got the credits. So it's the way it goes in rock and roll, mate, ain't it?
I never got the royalties either.
I remember you telling me about
the only royalty I ever saw was Lady Jane's.
and the lady that I've just been talking to before we come to, well, about an hour before we come to the studio, and on this, got a fair few tracks as well, the royalty on this CD as well, the Californians, you know. Tell me the story there about this new album, Pete or Mick, whichever one you like.
Hard to say, really, because it's something that we've got to give Rob full credit on this, because
Rob
we had no part in arranging it. It suddenly appeared, and it was like, wait, have you seen what we've got
absolutely
here?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a shame. I mean, he lives at a distance, but I'm going to do my 80% best to try and give him a ring in the second half of the show, because, as you say, he's put a margin amount of effort into bringing this into being, into it, and it's great. But I'll start with you, Pete. Tell me what it was like years ago being in... you were the Montaners. I mean, I'm sure to offend other people in Wolverhampton, and I don't mean that if anybody's listening, but it's sure to have been the top bands, were they, really?
We were the two top, you know. And in fact, we had great respect for each other. At the time, we always thought that the Montaners were the best band.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, we used to go and watch them. We thought they were fantastic, and we just thought we was a good band, but we thought they were better.
And musically better, weren't they?
And then,
about
2 years ago, I think, I met up with Johnny Jones, and he said that the Montaners were in absolute awe of the Californians. They always wanted to be the Californians.
Gosh.
And we didn't know. I never knew that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's nice. Yeah. Come a little bit closer to your mic, Mick.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, so it was...
Telling a pro here to come into his mic, he'll tell me off for that much.
Yeah. Well, it was great in the 60s. I mean, Wolverhampton was fantastic. We had some lovely venues. And, as I say, we travelled all over the country. So many bands. And when you get to a gig like a university or something, we used to have a couple of bands on at least.
Yeah.
And we used to meet up with big bands at the time, like the Hollies and the Foremost. And it was just great times.
I mean, as you're saying, and you guys toured as well with some top people as well, didn't you? You know, I mean...
Well, I think looking back, the tour that we did with Walker Brothers and Jimi Hendrix, we never really realised at the time, did we, how big that tour would be. It was just another gig to us.
I've got a Scott Walker story, you know.
Yeah?
I had a bit... I only ever had the one. I mean, I wrote 30 books over the years, but it's like you guys, unless you have but I did have one bigger in America. And I wrote it with another guy. And Scott Walker, they have like a big party for you there. They have a big party and everybody come. And Scott Walker come by very strange.
Yes.
He come and says, my name is Noah. And I think that's all he said to me for the rest of the night.
He never...
Very strange. Very strange, man. How do you... but maybe you guys found him different being musicians?
No.
I don't know.
We used to travel on the tour bus. And Jimi Hendrix was on there, Engelbert was on there, Cat Stevens was on there. Who wasn't on there? The Walker Brothers. Yeah. And they never spoke to us.
That's amazing, ain't it, really?
Yeah.
And you know what? I mean, I was really glad that he come, and I mean, a massive...
I got on well with John Moss, or Mouse, whatever.
Yeah.
He was a really lovely fellow, even after the tour.
And Gary, the drummer, he was a nice fellow.
We'd bump into him in the studio or something, and he was always such a lovely fella.
But more embarrassing that now, you know, when I'll tell all my stories. I can't keep the listeners listening every tell me stories, but I have one ever more embarrassing. This little guy come up, Ricky, and he introduced himself as Ricky, and you've known me a good many years, Mick. I'd like to think I'm a nice guy, but you got a lot on when you something like that with a book or something, you know. And I don't really make that much of a fuss of him. And the next day was a big carnival going all around New York, and it was Ricky Martin.
Oh gosh!
I know.
Yeah.
But I took a bit of living that one down, really. But there you go. But I mean, it's a nice thing, really. I mean, but there he was on the front of the you know, the Latin.
That's right.
Give him no random, and I don't even recognise him, you know. But
perhaps your word is type.
Well, but we don't know that at that time.
All the girls
being extremely careful.
Yeah. A lot of the girls were very, very disappointed.
when I come back, a lot of the girls in the family were saying, "You met Ricky Martin? Did you get it?" No, not really. But what about Jimi Hendrix then? I mean, that must have been fantastic to tour with artists like that. But I mean, you guys, you must have been expecting to break like that yourself.
Well, we all didn't hope, didn't we?
We could have done.
I think so, definitely, yeah.
During that tour, Chas Chandler, who was the manager of Jimi Hendrix, he actually asked Roger Allen, who was our manager, he says, "I'd like to take these lads and make them big." And Roger Allen's reply to that was, "These lads will do it on their own. They don't need you."
You've got a network, though, ain't you?
And that was the problem.
Yeah.
If he'd have taken us on, in fact, we're walking through Soho about 12 months after the tour.
Yeah.
And Chas Chandler shouted across the street, "Hey lads, how are you? Are you still available?" You know. And we said, "No, we're still with Rog." And he said, "Well, I still want you if you're interested. But in the meantime, Roger says you can have my other band if you want." And that was Slade. He says, you can have those if you want, and he sold Slade to Chas Chandler.
The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
Mind you, I mean, there's always them stories, but I remember...
in fairness, Phil...
Yeah, go on, Mick.
I don't think... We might have had a one-hit wonder or something, you know, or maybe a couple, but, I mean, Slade they were writing their own stuff, and they were so different. They were always going to be different.
There was, but they'd gone a bit quiet, hadn't they? To be quiet. I mean, I remember being down the back. One time, if there was on locally, you couldn't get in. If Ambrose Slade,
that's right.
In-betweens originally wore that.
But 3 men in the boat. That was
you couldn't get in. But they'd gone a bit quiet, hadn't they? Just before they really broke.
Yes. Don hadn't.
No, Don hadn't. No, Don hadn't gone quiet now. But as you say, I mean, and there's that many stories out there.
Everybody's got a mate. Everybody
I thought it was not just because your mates of mine, but I thought it was great. The Montanas as well, Finders Keepers.
Yeah,
I think that was all great. Dripper Kent,
Light Fantastic.
Yeah, all of them, you know. Yeah. And Phil and Anna. You know, I mean, you know, they were all great brands, weren't they? Yeah. But what was it like in them days, though? Really, you know, because it must have been very hard work, Mick. I'll bring you in, because I remember some of you guys, a couple of years younger than me, but you'd be playing 2 events sometimes, wouldn't you?
We prayed,
you know, at dinner times and all sorts of things.
In fact, we did 3 one night in the Princess, the Domino, and the Georgian in Manchester, like theatre clubs.
That's amazing.
In fact, here's a funny one for
you.
Great
story.
Go on.
Yeah, we'd got quite well in the charts with that Sunday Will Never Be the Same.
Yeah, so I'm going to play that. Funny enough, that's the outtrack that he's listening to. Go on.
Yeah, so we're headlining on the night, and there was all sorts of acts, you know, underneath, comedians, jugglers, whatever. And what was the name of the girl?
It was a girl singer from America. She was doing a tour.
Yeah, and she got a support band. Yeah, her backing band. Called Status Quo.
Oh, blimey.
And what was funny, they come in the dressing room and said, "Oh, we've heard your record." Because we thought, wow, we've made it, you know. So, sort of talking down to them, and I said, "Oh, we've just made a record." I said, "Go on then, what's it called?" "Pictures of Mastic Men." I said, "Pictures of bleep bleep what?" What sort of record's that? Yeah. 2 weeks later, we were still going up and down the M6, and they were on top of the pops.
And yet, they changed from that style, they really. They went very much like driving rock band, they? After that, really. But as you say, that was the first one that broke them, wasn't it, really?
Then, you know,
he was,
EP
and all that stuff, Flower Power and all that stuff. Yeah. But there was another American band, really, that sort of quickly recorded one of your songs as well. Well, remind me what that was, Mick. I'm sure you've told me a story about that before as well.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Was that not you guys? The Flower Pot Men?
The story behind that was when
I'm losing it a bit, but yeah.
No, the record companies were always sending us songs. Yeah. They say, "Listen to this, see if you want to record this."
Yeah.
And they sent us a demo of a song called "Let's Go to San Francisco" by the Flower Pot Men. And it was a fabulous demo. So he says, this is right up our street. This'll do it.
It would have been perfect for you, the style of you guys.
And we actually went into the studio and did it. But then the record company got back in touch and says, "Sorry about this, lads, but the Flower Pot Men, the demo is being released as the record." So
it was Carter Lewis. They'd done all the vocals and everything.
Yeah.
And they had to create a band called the Flower Pot Men to promote it afterwards.
Because they were studio musicians, were they? Hadn't they? Really toured, had they really?
Fairness to them, I mean, what a great record. And that was a demo that got released.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Incredible.
Got to be bit of an heartbreaker that now.
Yeah. So that's one we missed out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he's another one. We went to Pye Studios with our version of...
it was Tony Hatch was the musical arranger, and it was Silence is Golden.
Oh, right.
We did our version of that. And you know, blowing our trumpet, it was quite a nice version.
Yes, it was.
And at the end, he just pressed the button because he was in the studio right above. So he liked to look down on people.
Yeah,
and he says, "Forget it, lads, that's not chart material."
Oh, right.
And a few weeks later, of course, he'd given it to...
John Schroeder.
Yeah.
And the rest, and again, the Tremolos, the rest is straight.
So,
but there's a story, the Tremolos, I mean, I think he, he was old mate of mine, Brian Riley, but Brian Poole, I think it was... he dumped them rather than the other way around,
Yeah.
But, perhaps dump ain't the right word, but you know what I mean. I want to go in a different direction.
That's right.
And really, sometimes things backfire, don't they? And, and he's gone on to still have a great career, still working, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
But the Tremolos, it was right there at the top, weren't they, for about 5 years,
Yeah. But it was thanks to that first one.
And thanks to that very first song that got it rolling.
Like I said earlier, I think if you speak to Anna and Phil next week, the Staffords turned down the Tony Hatch number.
Yeah.
Everybody's got these stories. Every single band you ever talk to. We're not unique. We all had the same things happen.
No.
And it's just the look of the draw at the end of the day.
But coming back to it, I think it's still great. I mean, is this going to be another crack, I mean, am you going to get the stuff to free your hands up? Because that'll be more problem than that to get the fingers.
Yeah, WD-40 springs to mind.
The one good thing about it is we're all alive, we can tour.
And how many gone, from everybody from... Mickey from
with your background, Phil, you'll be able to contact us after we've
done. I'll put all the band together, wouldn't I? I'll put all the band together, wouldn't I? But yeah, as you say, Mickey Graucott, who'd have thought he'd have gone just when, well, not that money don't count for nothing, but, just as he'd sort of come to some agreement about, his vocals and all the rest of it, and on the Electric Light Orchestra, but too many have gone out. Gosh, he was great. Well, I should say Kelly Graucott. The listeners won't know what we're on about, really, but Kelly Graucott. To the listeners, of course. But what a talent! What a talent! But as you say, so many of them have gone there, and you're still fit and looking well, and keeping going.
Yeah, that's right. You know what they say, Phil? Should have gone to Specsavers.
Yeah, well, it's my job to be nice to you guys, and it's your job to accept it with. So what are you doing now? Obviously, I know Mick with in the music.
Still got the music shop.
The music shop. Well, go on.
One way music.
Don't throw it out there. I can throw it to you, Mick. If I do it too much, I'll get it. Go on, tell us about it, Mick. How that come about and into all that stuff. I suppose it's
all mates, really. And when you lose your input as a band and you want to stay in contact with the business, you find a lot of guys in music shops did it. You open a music shop, so you're still in contact with the people and and that's why I'm still doing it now. It's nothing to do with the business, because I like doing it and I like the people,
and not just because I got him here early as well. You can I ain't going to sort of itemise any places that you could buy your instruments from, and the internet and all the rest of it, and all sorts of shops you could go to. But it is a big thing, I think, with musical instruments. You can go in the shop and feel what it feels like, and even if you're very early in your playing career, see if it suits you, and get a bit of advice. And you can't get that on the internet.
No, well, they don't set them up on the internet.
No.
What they're selling is boxes.
No.
And that's only edge. Prices ain't no different. It's just that we set them all
and
up, service them free.
It's a big thing, that is, Mick, because, and I'm sure they're great as well, Pete, because I don't care, you know, who you are, you know, unless you've had a lot of experience to set, say, a guitar up yourself. I don't care what it is, it'll sound awful till it's properly set up to play. You know, you might buy a new Gibson, I don't know, a new Gibson Les Paul. I'm probably exaggerating.
You're not actually,
but you know what I mean.
Gibson's never been worse than that.
Well, you know, I did throw it for you, like, you know. But I don't want to lose my job,
Keep
mate.
throwing the lines.
I'll throw them. You had to knock them in there. Like Waggy used to pull them down the wing. The Duke used to nod them in, you know. But you know what I mean. But it is a big thing, I think. That it's like the. Do you remember the bandbox? We should got the bandbox there when
I do indeed
play about with it.
You know, I learnt. Here's another little story.
Go on then.
I wanted a Vox amp the same as George Harrison had.
Oh,
I got the guitar. I've still got it, in fact, 54 years on.
Really?
And I wanted the Vox they did for Shea Stadium. I think it was 224 guineas.
That was a lot of money then.
Guineas, it was about 15 weeks' wages or something. And he'd got one. George Framer got one in the bandbox. So I went in to see it, hopefully to buy it.
Yeah.
And because he didn't like groups, he was into bands.
No.
And I tried to show him how to switch it on, and he frightened me out the shop.
Really?
Yes, don't you tell me how to switch that on. And I finished up, I had to go over to Birmingham and buy one from there, so I frightened to go back in.
He wouldn't sell you
a lesson well learnt for me. When kids come in, 9 times out of 10, they actually know more about the product they're buying than you do, and don't talk down.
I like that. That's you know, because we've all had that experience. You know, I mean, certain shops have one or two shops. I got to start railing up all the shops. Me, but
Jack's not around.
No. See, these guys now. That's a
good player.
Oh, very good. Yeah. But you were always so welcome. Some kids was, and others were. You never know when that kid's saved his pennies or when his dad's got to sign the cheque for him, do you? You know,
quite surprising.
And you know, a really good point that. I like that. So, what about you, Pete? You know, what are you doing these days?
Not a lot. Holidays and golf.
That don't sound too bad, does it?
That's basically me.
That's a rock and roll lifestyle, ain't it, really? That's Rod Stewart, ain't it, when he ain't playing, ain't it?
Well, I had 50 years' experience of singing professionally.
Yes.
Packed it in brackets about 5 years ago, but I still do the odd occasional gig if it's a charity function and they want me to compare it or...
Did you do the cruises and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Well, that ain't a bad life, is it, Pete?
No, it was wonderful.
Yeah, I've done a lot of cruises, but I've had to bloody pay for mine.
But no, I had a great career.
Yeah.
In fact, the only break from singing professionally, I opened a music shop.
Yes.
Opposite the bandbox on Snow Hill. Yeah. And I had that from 1971 to 76.
Yeah, I remember that now.
It was called The Sound of Music.
Yes, that's right.
In Whitehead's building.
Yes.
And right opposite the bandbox?
Right opposite the bandbox, Virg. And I was missing playing. And so I actually sold the shop to my then partner, Bob Lightwood, who was in the, what was the name? It's Steve Brett and the Mavericks. He was the guitarist.
Yeah.
So I sold my share of the shop in there, and I went to Jersey for 10 years with the singer of the Californians after John left, which is Jeff Parks.
Yes.
And we went to Jersey, and we did quite well. We was there for 10 years, and we did 2 shows on the Seaside Special for BBC.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's on YouTube now still.
Everything's on YouTube.
If anybody wants to watch the Californians live in Jersey, Seaside Special, it's on YouTube.
That's great.
So everybody can look at that.
And what about members past? Would you like to list the players
we didn't.
Because you was pretty tight in your band, weren't you? A lot of the local bands, a lot of different guys went in and out to lots of different groups, as we called them in them days. But you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, John was the original singer, John O'Hara. Great,
super,
great front
man. Fantastic,
superb front man.
And he left for a while, and Jeff Parks came in, and he was also a great singer in his own way.
Yes,
different type of voice, and then. For a while, John came back in again, I think, didn't he? We did have the two of them together, and then John took over again.
And we also had a guitarist come in called Adrian Ingram, Absolutely fantastic.
No, I don't think I don't know him. I don't.
He's now a professor of music, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Very well respected.
Yeah, jazz guitar.
Wolverhampton lad.
Dudley.
Oh, Dudley.
Yeah.
It's crossing the border, right?
And of course, let's not forget Evo. He was the original drummer. I still see him occasionally. He comes past
Evo
the
Evans,
shop and waves over, you know. Yeah. In fact, I've got a copy of this record for him, Pete.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
This CD.
Well, I've been playing it this. I mean, I've been playing it this afternoon. It's great. It's mentioning some of the other artists as well. You've got
Tony. There was Tony, the drummer, as well, when he was with Like Fantastic for a while.
He only joined us for a short period, didn't he? But Rob came along, and Rob was with us for some years.
Yeah.
And he took over the style of standing up drumming, you know, which was always a feature of the Californians.
Tony Jackson's group. Who?
He was with the Searchers.
Oh, right. That
He was the
Tony
bass
Jackson.
player.
In fact, when didn't that split and there was two Searchers from then, or there was Tony Jackson Searchers.
Still is. I'm friends with. It's a funny one, that is, Mick, because I'm friends with Mick Pender and Mike Pender, Mick Pender, and the other lot, Frank and all that. So it's a difficult one, because I interviewed the two of them, but I'm always very careful how I go in and out of it, you know.
I think they've finally done the last gigs, haven't they, this year? The Searchers.
Mike Pender won us.
Well, I think Mike finished. Mind you, I think it did it, or was he on this? I think he might have done one of them 60s shows at the Grand a couple of years ago. So
yes,
we would still be going a couple of years ago. But I think Frank and the other guys have. I think they've called it this year either.
Of all people, I bumped into the Barron Knights. We hadn't seen them since the 60s.
Gosh,
and I was rattling, and it was them that said that they thought the Searchers were not going to do any more.
I believe so, but they retire. I think they retire every year, so I don't know. I don't know. Every time I've been interviewing, I've been doing this show now for 10 years. 10 years this show's been going now. I can't believe it. Must be doing something right, or I don't know, one or the other.
Or cheap.
Or probably very cheap. That's probably it, to be honest. But but I think they've been off and on returning every year, and then I think somebody comes and offers them a bit of money or whatever, and
there's a lot of money to be earned on the Pontin circuit and the Havens holidays. They have
that's
rock and
what
roll
a lot
weekends.
of them 60s weekends.
That's right.
Cracked it on with originally, were it Pontins and Butlins and stuff like that, and then the theatre too was, if you get it rolling, and the theatre agents pick on up, because in the theatres, I mean. There again, I mean, if you've got 8 or 9 artists on, it's still a lot to share around, I suppose.
It'd be funny to see the old audiences, though, always immers.
Well,
trying to dance.
What about you? What about the Royalty and Finders Keepers and Callie's get there? You could do it. This ought to be something that you could do if you could find the time, couldn't you?
What to do theatre tours? I think.
I'll tell you something now, Pete. I did all right for myself. I mean, Mick knows me the other week, as you do as well, Pete, when we made him shit work. And I played the Grand and the Prince of Wales, the big theatres and all that. And it was great, but the theatres, the touring kills you. So, I mean, it's probably nothing to you guys, what you did, but
you can do it when you're 19, can't you?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, if you're going into your 30s and towards your 40s, 2 nights, and it's the travel, isn't it? You know.
That's one thing we could never understand when we were touring, like when we did the Walkers. You'd be, say, Newcastle on the Saturday, then they say Norwich on the Sunday, and then Glasgow on the Monday, and you'd think, well, why didn't you do Newcastle, Glasgow, and work your way down or up, whichever way it was.
You could never understand why the tour agents booked it like that, could you?
No.
Scotland 1 week and Birmingham the next, with something. There's enough to kill you, right there.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's where politicians come from.
Oh, it could be. So, I'm going to... Well, because it was the three of you originally, I'm going to try and give Robbie a ring in the second half, because
he'll
as
be
you
chomping
say,
at the bit,
as you say, he's done so much to put this together.
Yes.
But how did it come about, the news of it, or were you guys that it's there and it's running? Tell me the story.
It was a complete surprise to me. And Mick.
Really?
We never expected it to come
Seriously, I had no idea.
No, not a clue.
Not a clue. And then Rob phoned up the one day, he says, you won't realise what's happened. I said, what's that? And he says that some guys put all our records together on a CD and they're going to release it. And that was
some Australian guys.
Australians.
You had to go a long way to get a friend out there.
Yeah, seen Teens Villa Records.
The cover inside, it opens up into a real biog.
I've had a look. It's great.
It's fantastic.
It really tells the story. Some great pictures as well.
Yeah.
Problem is, I can't even recognise myself on them.
No.
Nah. Well, I think that goes for all of us. Mate, what, you could grow the hair and grow a beard, mate. I've been telling you that. Look what I do.
What hair would that?
Well, you can get one of them wigs or something, couldn't you? And let the beard come on. And,
do calm up.
You look at Rob Trevis, though. He hasn't changed hardly at all.
No, I ain't.
And yet there's people. I mean, my daughter, when I show her the photos of the Californians, and she said, "Well, which one's you, Dad?" And I have to. She couldn't recognise me.
That's embarrassing when your own daughter correct.
That's right.
It's more embarrassing when you can't tell them.
I'll tell you. Irving Martin as well. I thought that was a nice little introduction in this, really, because again, the guy who was quite important on the side.
Yeah, he was a top guy.
You know, I mean, with a lot of. We mentioned the Dodger, and obviously my dad's match and all the rest of it. And so it's a night really to talk about Roger Adele, I think, because that's an interview in its own.
He's a character.
He was. I'm in my 60th. He sung My Way at more. I was surprised how well he could sing. You know, because he could really sing. You know, I mean, he sung My Way at my 60th birthday. And I thought, well, he's had a drink, you know, but he was great. He was really good singer.
Perhaps you had been as you thought he was.
Unless I'd had a drink and I thought he was great. I don't know, whatever. But it is a story in its own, really. Yeah. I mean, he got a hell of a personality and a hell of a way of talking, opening doors, hadn't he? I mean, one or two of them he don't quite maybe close them properly as he should have done. But that's another story. So, well, before I finish the interview with you, I've been leading off through it 2 or 3 times anyway. Picked up on it, you know. The albums. Are you going to go out and do a little tour?
Well, do you want to be the tour manager?
I got to know. I thought you were going to say compared. I'm not going to say. I don't know. I got to.
I think I'll quit while I'm at the bottom.
Well, I'm disappointed to hear that because I think it's a really good album and. You know, I mean, if you get...
I'd never get the white trousers on anyway.
You never get the white trousers on. Paul Craig as well. And Finders Keepers. Sight and Sound. Yeah, you tell me... Tony Jackson, I was struggling with that a bit, really, but of course I know what you mean now, you know. It's a great CD anyway.
It is.
I've thought, and a great... What I will say as well is a great little... an insertion catalogue with it. Some great pictures in there. If you're fans of the Californians, and who won't, if you come from Wolverhampton, no, seriously, who won't? I mean, that was on everywhere from, you know, everywhere you could mention those guys was on from, you know, that place on the Walsall Road. Well, you come when when I did the video, Mick. You was there, weren't you? You was on the video. Have you forgot?
Oh yeah, well,
the
Cleveland Arms.
The Cleveland.
Everywhere from the Cleveland.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. So all them
Cleveland, the Merry Boys,
all them places.
Yeah. You threw me then, the Walsall Road.
Did I catch it?
It's the Willenhall Road.
It is the Willenhall Road.
Yeah, it's
I suppose it is.
It's no good without a sat nav.
Nah, true. The song, I'm going to check it out with one, really. I think... I just think it was a great track, really, and you mentioned it already. Sunday will never be the same.
Lovely record.
How that won't... Well, you know, I mean, you've said it yourself. It's often been the right place at the right time, mate, with things.
Exactly.
But it was a great song. Pete Aberley, Mick Brooks, been great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I think it's been a long time since you were in, Mick, and I think this is the second time you've been in over a good many years.
Yes.
So
many years.
I hope we get you back a little bit sooner.
It's been a real pleasure.
And you should.
And ask them to go out and buy it, the people.
I will, mate. And you should do the tour. Why not? Get out there, mate, and do it. Absolutely fantastic.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Been a pleasure.
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure. Californians, and you've got your troubles, I've got mine. I think that's a better version, I really do, than the Four Tunes version. And I'd like to welcome the last guest of the show this evening, Robbie Travis. Robbie, how are you, mate?
Good evening, everybody. I'm fine. It's nice to meet you, Phil.
I hope you've been listening to the show, mate.
I have, yes. Rather exciting.
Thank you very much. Had two very good old buddies of yours in there, mate, Pete Aberley and Mick Brooks, live in the studio.
Oh yes, that was a bit of a hoot, as they say.
Well, I've been friends with Mick a good many years, to be fair. But you know, the reason I thought we sort of hold this pod back at the interview with you, Robbie, because more or less this great CD that's out, the Californians, now with one or two other Wolverhampton Black Country bands on there. I understand you've played a great deal, really, in it coming to be, really. So tell me the story, Robbie.
The story is it's quite complex, really. It started around about 7 years ago. I was, when I first got introduced to the internet, I thought, well, what better thing to look for? So I started looking for stuff on the Californians back in the 60s. Got quite a lot of stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm then beginning to research the record-wise. I got a few singles, and I hadn't got all of our singles. And but I started looking on the internet, and I found a guy in the Far East in Japan. And apparently, we were well reviewed in Asia with the type of 60s music that we had. And Japan has a wonderful taste in 60s pop music, quality music. There was obviously some rubbish, but majority of stuff that the Japanese really love and still do today, really enjoy their 60s music. And
they do. That's true.
There was a gentleman there who actually got all our singles on MP3, and I begged him for about 6-7 months, please let me have a copy, and eventually he gave in and sent me a copy, which I then put to CD, and then which was quite interesting. I sent Pete a copy, and I said, have a guess what this is, and I told him where it had come from. And then I started with Facebook started to be rather popular, and I started putting a few tracks on Facebook with a bit of photographs, etc., a bit of information about the Californians. And surprise, surprise, I had a message come from a guy from the Netherlands, a guy called Ronnie Linthout. And Ronnie, who was a freelancer for Radio London a few years back. But yes. Yeah, a true lover of 60s music. And Ronnie and I built up this friendship, and he absolutely adores the Californians' music and the music of that ilk. And from that, he then said, Robbie, said, we've got to get this onto CD, we have to do that. And he really tried so very hard. I also was talking to a few record companies trying to get it as well, which came to no avail, to be honest with you. But Ronnie pursued it over the next few years, and was getting rather frustrated that all his friends from Europe were enjoying the MP3s he was putting on YouTube and his own video to it. And eventually, he actually got the attention of an Australian record company called Teensville Records. Now, Teensville Records specialise in compiling seldom hear rarities of the 1960s. And Ronnie brought the Californians to their attention. And straight away, Ash Wells, the MD, got to me and he said, I've never heard a compilation featuring the work of the Californians. Would you be okay if we put it together? Yeah. And he said that the recordings were bright, positive, full of
grace,
just the thing that is needed in today's world. Yeah. And I was blown away. I thought, crikey, I thought I'm the only one that thought about the Californians records as I did. And it was great. And over the next few months, he put together with a colleague of his in America, and they put the remastered all the MP3s that he got some singles, and I sent him stuff as well, and he remastered them, and he put them in the compilation album that we have that was released on March the 31st, and called Early Morning Sun. And there were 16 fabulously produced tracks that were issued on these CDs. And what you were talking with Mick and with Pete earlier on, all the tracks were produced by Irving Martin, not obviously people getting confused with the other Martin guy, the Beatles.
No.
Irving, a brilliant producer.
But you know, I'm going to have to say that, Rob, a very highly well-known and respected guy in his own right.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people realise just he did a lot of film music as well.
He did.
And of course, we worked many years ago for Astor Agency in Wolverhampton. We were one of the leading agencies in the UK in the 60s.
Nita?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, yes, Anita Anderson, she was another very, very popular agency. And Irving worked a lot with Astra. And that's how the Californians got together with him. And as we recorded this album, Early Morning Sun. And incidentally, the title, Early Morning Sun, was actually the B-side of the record that you've just played from the Californians, You Got Your Troubles. The bird is called Early Morning Sun, and that was actually written by Adrian Ingram, whom was with a band called Gilt Edge. In fact, Adrian and I were in a band together many years before that called The Choice. And Adrian wrote this song on the way to a gig, believe it or not. And it took him something like 15 minutes to write.
Well, we'd better have that as the out song then, I think. Then I've been listening to them all. I think they're all great tracks, and you've got some other tracks on there as well from Paul Craig and Laddie Jane and the Royalty and Finders Keepers, Sight and Sound.
And Tony Jackson.
Tony Jackson, yeah.
It's interesting is that I've been speaking with Phil and with Anna from Lady Jane and the Royalty, and we've been chatting about it, one thing, and I've been talking. In fact, Finders Keepers, Dave, the drummer from Finders Keepers, who's now plays backing for a wonderful musical thing called Beyond the Barricade.
Gosh.
He's a fabulous drummer. In fact, I was with Dave.
I'm going to stop you about drummers. You're the only guy I ever remember now, that I can ever remember, who stood up to drum.
That's correct. Well, actually, that's not true.
No, okay, correct me then.
No, well, Keith Evans, who was the previous drummer.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I think yeah.
We met was quite interesting. That I was with a band called The Choice. Many moons ago, and their road manager, a Californians road manager, let them down, and the Californians, Astra, said to us, "Can you come in and can you take the gear?" To Abergavenny Town Hall, and that was when Sunday Will Never Be the Same.
Yes.
And we went on and set the gear up, and the Callies came, did their set, and right at the very end, because they knew I was a drummer, Pete, the guy, mate, he said, "We've got one of our roadies here who'd like to come on stage," and they all of a sudden thrust upon me, "Can you play on this, Rob?" I said, "Yep, no problem." And it was the first, never stood up before, I'd always sat down to play.
Is that true?
Yeah, and we finished off with Barbara Ann for that set, and that was my first introduction to the Finders Keepers, to the Californians.
Yes.
Knowing 2 months later, I would actually be a permanent member of the Californians.
Well, you got the style. I mean, I've never played the drums, I must admit, but I should think it'd be quite. I don't know. I think it'd be quite hard. Keep your time standing up, but evidently you could very, very well. You know.
Well, it was quite a nice transition. It wasn't difficult for me, to be honest with you. So, in fact, in later bands after the Californians split, I returned to standing up as well, playing. It's something that.
Well, you know what they say, Robbie. You know that at least the girls could see you, because nobody wanted you to play on the drums because the girls couldn't see you, mate. You know.
Oh no, it's always nice to be there because it was right at the front, so that was quite nice as well.
I'm joking with you, mate. Seriously though, it's a great side. Early morning sun, 60s harmony pop produced by Irving Martin, the Californians. Where can we actually, I mean, I've kept this question back for you, Robbie, but where can we get it from? Where can we buy it from?
No, it's great. You can actually go onto Amazon, and Amazon have actually got the album there, and it's called Early Morning Sun, as you've quite rightly said. It's £11 on Prime, and as you say, you're quite quite absolutely right there. It's not only just with us. You've got 16 tracks of the Californian song, starting off with our very, very first records, Little Ship of the Red Sail, Golden Apples, right the way to Sunday Will Never Be the Same, the Cook's the Cake of Kindness, Sad Old Song. Oh, there's loads. You Got Your Troubles, which is the one you've just played.
That's great. I've been playing it all day. I've been very, very impressed with it.
Yeah.
I think the quality is excellent.
It's a good quality album, and you're quite rightly, Royalty, Lady Jane and the Royalty, as we quite rightly, I think it should be called. They got 5 tracks on there. Finders Keepers, they've got tracks. Sight and Sound, believe it or not, have actually got 2 tracks on this album.
Yes.
And my old mucker, whom I played with as well, I worked with in the 70s and 80s, Mike Sheridan. They recorded a record there for Sight and Sound called Ali Ali, and it really is a good album. Tony Jackson, the Ex-Searchers bass player, he's got 2 tracks on there as well. All these guys were Irving Martin Productions.
Well, I think it's absolutely great. And I suppose the $6 million question that I'll put to you now, the same as I did to the other. It's a shame you couldn't have joined us, but maybe we can, at another time, with a little bit more notice, get you guys back in and get you in the studio next time. But I thought, well, we got to give this guy a call. He's put so much spade work into making this happen. But, yeah, I mean, the $6 million question, you know, you guys going to get and have another crack, you know?
Well, it's a wonderful suggestion.
Yeah.
And we all. I mean, I speak with Pete and Mick quite regularly.
Yes.
I know John is. I think he's. I'm not certain. He's in the States at the moment.
Yes.
But it would be wonderful to do maybe just a one-nighter. I think we're all old in our tracks, but I'm still working. I work still quite regularly every week. Here, because I now live in West Wales.
Okay.
And you know, I've got a few albums out myself, which I've recorded solo. But yeah, so I work, as I say, in the South West Wales area. But I do travel up to Wolverhampton because my family is still up here. And it's always great to meet up. Whenever I come up, I always meet up with the boys. In fact, Pete and I meet in Tenerife every November. We have a couple of weeks there where we like last year we performed together, and it was fantastic. I have to be honest with you. And
well, come on then, mate. There ain't no reason why we can't get you in one of those theatres to do this, then, is there?
Well, it'd be wonderful, but it's one of these that these things don't just happen overnight.
No.
As you well know, Phil, to be honest with you. Yeah. But it would be great, and you know, it would be really nice if we could all get back together and just have an evening of nostalgia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people today, you know, I mean, I must emphasise, you know, I'm a couple of years younger than the guys, you know, but everywhere, you know, the Californians and the Montanas, they were everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Those guys were everywhere, you know. You couldn't, there weren't a night when they weren't out working, and if there wasn't, it was probably from choice, you know. And it's great that this opportunity for another generation to be aware of the music and realise how great it was, because we just, I mean, everybody needed that little break. Still do, probably, to some extent. Music business is different today, of course, but even today, you still need that little break, but you needed a massive break, and just to be in the right place at the right time, which you guys come so close to. You know, you'd have been up there with all the national bands. There's no doubt about it. And this needed doing. And you know, I'm going to take my hat off to you, Robbie, and say, well done, mate.
Well, I really appreciate what you say there, to be honest with you, Philip. It was difficult in the 1960s, and it was. Well, in fact, it was far more difficult. I firmly believe it was far more difficult in the 1960s than it is today. Today, there's not so many bands because you haven't got the venues as we have.
Nowhere to play. You know, you get a lot of people who do knock the young kids, the young musicians today, Robin. I don't know whether that's always fair, because one of the problems is it's very... I mean, we're lucky here in Wolverhampton. We got a couple of great venues, the Slide Room and the Robin, you know.
Yeah.
But we're very lucky. But you got a lot of cities even, there's nowhere for the kids to play, you know. The pubs don't put on, you know, music like they used to, you know, and it is difficult. But you guys were very, very talented. But when you were very talented in the 60s, you needed that little break as well, and you would have cracked it, and you guys definitely would have done that, And, it's great that you've done this, it really is. And, I mean, maybe you can... I don't know. As you say, I suppose when you think how far-flung you guys all are, really, and it's very hard to get everybody together. But I think it would be a shame if you didn't have that one bash at some time or another. If I don't know if you even did the old Cleveland Arms again or something like that, mate.
Oh, yes, those were the days.
Exactly.
The nice thing about it is that the fact is that the album that's been put together has been it's been selected with some. Well, it just goes to show you back in the 60s and in the West Midlands what talent there was around.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And there was obviously the Californians, Montanas. It just shows you, even on this album together, we've got, as I said, we've got Royalty, Lady Jane's Finders Keepers, we've got their Sight and Sound, we've got there. And these bands were absolutely tremendous, would hold their own with any of the, with a lot of the music that we have today. And bear in mind that a lot of it today is studio controlled, whereas years ago, what you saw is what you got. And
absolutely. Well, your live performance was everything, wasn't it, really?
We weren't reliant on radio. We weren't reliant on TV. You were reliant on going out there and actually touching base with the people who bought the records then, and it was a darn sight harder than it is today, I should imagine.
What's the band that you call that you with now, Robbie?
Well, I'm a solo artist.
You're solo.
Under the name of Robbie Lee.
Okay.
And I work basically because I live in West Wales, right on the coast of Pendine. In Larne is where I actually live.
No, it will.
And so I work with the West Wales, South Wales area as a solo act, and I have a great time. I'll be honest with you. I do it in many different ways. But I have a thoroughly great time, and I find myself working at the moment about 4 or 5 times a week, which is quite nice.
That ain't bad at all, mate. That ain't bad at all. Yeah. And as long as you can do it, you keep doing it, mate, because I think once you do stop doing it for a while, it's very hard to get that really tight sound again. And I'll take my hat off to you, mate. Keep making music. It's what it's all about. And thank you for helping to make this CD.
Okay.
Sensational. And been great to talk to you.
Well, it's been wonderful having the chance to talk to you. And it was great listening to the boys earlier on. So, but if people want to go out, it's on Amazon. It's called Early Morning Sun, The Californians. And it's there for everybody to purchase.
It's great, and I'm going to play that track as it gives it one final push. Robbie, thanks for speaking to us, mate, and thanks for doing this, and good luck with everything you do, mate.
A real pleasure, and God bless. And listen, it's great to hear Wolverhampton again.
We do our best. Cheers, mate.